Okay, so we're going to go about building a level for the Fantastic Worlds iOS starter kit from scratch using some imagery and tiled. But I want to lead off here by just showing you guys a completed level that is actually free on new website gameartpartners.com, and you'll find it up there. It includes all the flash source files, and it even includes a .tmx file with a property list that you can just dump right into the Fantastic Worlds kit if you do have it. So everything is ready to go, and this is what it looks like in tiled, of course. And if I were to just kind of play through it with the example characters, that character is not actually included in there, but that's what it would look like. And just so you kind of get a good idea of what you're getting into here, the images in here are all just kind of these standalone units. You're not painting anything. I just did finger quotes there. So it's a little bit of a different process than you might be familiar with tiled. Some people, when they think of the program tiled, they think of sprite sheets and having to use square images only of 128 by 128 size. That's not the case at all. You can bring in any image. Just keep it a standard definition size image, not the Retina display size, and you're just basically laying it out inside of here. And it doesn't matter the Z depth. That is going to be something that you adjust in the property list back over into Xcode. So really, all you're using the program for here is just to lay things out really quickly, and you can just kind of copy and paste these objects. This is obviously kind of the same chunk of artwork, just repeated over and over again. And the important thing here is, of course, the position of where it is, and then giving it a name. You could think of this like an instance name, so the property list can reference it, and you give it a type, which is sort of like a class type, okay? And there's not that many types to choose from: objects, characters. We have portals in here somewhere if I scroll around enough. So that's really all that's ahead of you here. And the real bulk of the grunt work is just kind of exporting out your artwork and importing it in, which doesn't take that long. So let's show you one more thing inside of here that is a map resize map. And if at any time you find that you want to extend the size of the map, you can just do that through here. One thing I've noticed with tiled, though, is that if you were to make this, say, like 300, well, that's not really a good height anyway because it's smaller than the iPad's height. But if you were to make this height 300 or less than what it was before, what tiled will do is it will automatically delete the items that would have gotten excluded from that size. So that's kind of a gotcha you got to watch out for. So let me just undo that. You don't have that problem if you were going to extend the size of the map. And if you're just getting started here, again, I'm going to show you how to do this from scratch. But there's never any fault in just using the one of the example files that is already included inside of here. And this is what the TMX file looks like if you were just to look at it code-wise after it's been imported into Xcode. This is really just XML here. So if you wanted to just duplicate one of the existing levels, all you got to do is go over here, show it in the Finder, and of course that'll bring you over to where the actual TMX file is, and then of course just duplicate it. And just duplicating it does not actually import it in there. All right, what you've got to do is give it a new name, and then you can drag this over here, and of course you get your usual prompt here to import in a file, and there we go. So you now imported this one in, and then you could drag this into tiled and begin modifying it from here. And all right, so now that you've seen kind of the slacker way of doing it, let me show you how to totally start from scratch. And to do that, we'll go back over here to tiled. Okay, so let's start this from scratch. And over here in tiled, we will go to new. And it's always a good idea, if you can, to start kind of have a rough estimate of how big your level is going to be. So for example, if you only ever wanted the level to be the exact same size of at most the iPad, then you would put in there something like the dimensions of the iPad, so 1024 by 768. If you wanted it to be maybe double the width of the iPad, but about only the height, then you could go and just do something like 2048 and leave this at 768 tiles. Essentially, this comes down to pixels. All right, if you leave the tile size at 1:1, all right, and if you're going to do that, then the first thing you're going to do is go over here to tile layer and just go ahead and delete that. All right, remove that layer right away, because we're not going to ever deal with the tile layer here. And in terms of the size of the .tmx file, if you leave that tile layer in there, it just creates an unnecessarily large XML file, because essentially the XML file is going to set up the possibility of data for every one of those small little tiles in there. And if we were to save this right now, let's just go ahead and call it level 5. We'll put it in here with where it was before. So inside of the demo version, we'll call this level 5, because I just made a version of level 4. So we'll just keep incrementing up. All right, so that's level 5. And if we were to go and find that inside of the project, well, we haven't actually imported it yet, but if I just go over here to level 4 and show in Finder, there it is, level 5.tmx. Let's just go ahead and drag it in here so we have the at least the possibility of using it in the future here. And let's take a look at it XML-wise. All right, so that's very little data, and that is, of course, going to be reflected over here in the actual size of it, which is only 140 bytes. Incredibly small. And again, just kind of the bare bones, just 2 lines of XML data. All right, so let's jump back over here and let's go ahead and import in something. Really doesn't matter what it is. So inside of the demo project folder, if you're working off of this, you've got a folder called ForTiled, and then of course the folder that contains the Xcode project inside of here. What you want to do is leave this ForTiled folder just relative to that, and relative just meaning it kind of lives next door to it. And inside of here, you can place in any of your standard definition images that are going to just be used for layout only. What the actual image is never going to be represented in the kit itself. That all gets defined inside the property list. But these are just images that we're going to use, kind of dummy images for layout purposes only. And so let's take this blue brick platform image right here, and I'm going to put it inside of tile sets. And all it's going to ask me for here is just the size of it, and that is 127 by 50. And when I get that in here, it's now a kind of a resource I can use within Tile. Last thing I got to do is go over here into my objects layer and just add a new object layer, which I can place this image onto. Okay, so then I'm going to select that, go over here to Insert Tile, essentially just Insert Image, and just put it wherever I want. Okay. And if you kind of want to get like the broader scope of where you've actually put that, you can always go over here to Minimap, and I'll just kind of show you, kind of a panned out view of where that is. And let's switch back over here to Objects. We'll unfold this, and you can see right now that there's no name or type of it, and we'll just call this Platform. And we do need to give it a type. There's going to be a type of objects, okay? Because as opposed to being a character or being a portal, it's an objects type. Now, objects in terms of the Fantastic Worlds kit is going to be a very broad term. Any of your enemies are essentially objects. Something that you would stand on, that's an object. Even a background image is going to be an object. And via the properties that you give this object in the property list, it kind of defines like how complex it is. All right, so if this were just to be a simple background image, you really only need something like an image name and the C depth or the visual depth of it, and then on top of that you can kind of start giving it more complex things, like does it have a physics body, does it attack the character, things like that. But in terms of tiled here, that's it. We don't have to do anything else to get this particular object set up inside of here, all right? Because this is enough data, this essential class type and instance name, is enough for the property list to identify it in the stage here. And really, in terms of laying things out, what do you need to know other than the position of it? Okay. Of course, there is one other thing that we should add into here. And for this, we can just insert in just a kind of a rectangle if we want to. This could be an image itself, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. We are going to put in here a starting point, okay? And I'm going to call this starting point, and the type I'm going to call it portals, okay? Because your objects or your characters always enter or exit a level via portals. All right, and what will happen now is the kit will identify this as the starting point, and it's a portals type. And when we begin the level, it's essentially just going to start the character right around here, and it'll drop down onto this platform. So we do have enough to get started, and we'll save this out and jump back over here to Xcode. So even though you don't have to give your level dictionary name the same name as your .tmx file, remember this one's named level 5, I think it's just kind of a good practice to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and copy the level 1 with the kind of movable thumb pad or virtual control pad, the one that looks like a joystick, and I'll paste that right down here, and let's just simplify this down to level 5. And then one of the first things I'll do as soon as I copy it is just make sure that the TMX file, or the tiled file, is going to be level 5. Okay, I've even made that mistake myself of just copying the dictionary and thinking, oh, I gave it the same name as the tiled file, but I didn't actually point the dot or the TMX file to level 5. You don't actually have to put in here .tmx. Just level 5 is fine as long as you respect the capitalization. Okay, so if you put a capital L, be sure that's reflected over here. And then let's go and make it so that we can actually open up this level from one of the menus that we already have. So our start menu over here, let's go find one of the buttons, and level 1 control pad. Currently that is going to level 1 movable thumb pad, or thumb pad and control pad I kind of ended up using synonymously in terms of the kit. So I'll change that to level 5, and now, so you can see it goes to level 5, and the goes to portal is set to starting point, and of course that matches that starting point right now. So that button knows to go exactly there, and now we don't have to worry about our menus anymore. All we really have to worry about is kind of defining the character that's going to come into the level, and what object that's going to has been referenced in the tiled file. So let's come over here, and actually under portals we can go ahead and delete out everything that we're not using right now. So we just got our starting point in there, and there's really not that much data inside of here. Appear from portal where, this is essentially an offset value of where the character is going to appear relative to that portal. So 0, 0 just means that the center point of that portal is going to be where it appears. If I put in 100 right there, that means it's going to appear at a positive 100 away from that portal on the x-axis. Same for the y-axis. And this is an invisible object anyway, so the depth really doesn't matter, so that can just stay at 0. And make one way just means that the portal doesn't go back anywhere. And now let's go take a look at the characters that we're going to use for this particular level. And so unfolding under here, characters for this level, we've got new primary character. This is going to be the leader, and of course that matches leader right here, and there's all sorts of settings in there, but that's not for this tutorial to talk about. So we're going to fold those up as long as one of those matches. And then objects. All right, now since we copied a previous layer, there's plenty of other objects inside of here, and we've got one platform already set up in here. This one actually doesn't have any sort of physics values to it, so the character would not collide with it. So let's go ahead and delete this one out. We'll use one of the other ones that we have set up already. So I'm just going to kind of go through here. Oh, wait, you know what? Here we go. Let's use this blue brick platform. All right, so I'm going to delete out all these other ones. And here we go. All right, image name is going to be blue brick platform. Let's go over here and look at what image that is. And sure enough, I already got it set up inside of here. Blue brick platform. All right, that name right there just needs to match this name right here. All right, and it's intentional, but Doesn't necessarily have to be this way. That's, of course, the name of the same image that we imported into our tiled file. All right, so remember, we imported in the standard definition blue brick platform for layout purposes. And sure enough, here it is again. If you were to go and show in Finder, our 2x version of this, it's going to be double the size of the 1x version of it. All right, that looks about double, right? Okay. And that is going to be the artwork that gets represented for that particular object. All right, other properties affected by gravity. No, that means gravity is not going to just naturally pull down on this thing. Affected by physics. No, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have a physics body. It just means that if another body collided with it, it's not going to move anywhere. It's not going to get pushed around. Is collidable with character? Yes, because we want the character to be able to just stand on that thing. The mass for something like this really doesn't matter. You could even leave that value off. Restitution is at 0, so that means it's not going to be bouncy. The collision body type set to square. Well, that's a square object, so square makes sense. And then resize body by this could be a decimal value, but for a perfect square like that, 1 is a great number, just because that means the physics body shape is going to be just perfectly outlined by that image. You could make it 0.5. That would mean that the body would be half. The physics body would be half that of the image. And then a depth, of course, this is an important value. It's the visual depth of the actual object. The only thing that we really have to do here is change this name right here, because in my tiled file, you'll remember that I didn't call it blue brick platform. I called it just platform right there. All right. So that name needs to match this right here. And of course, this is my class type. So that's objects. And sure enough, that's reflected right there. And here we go. Let's go ahead and save this out. Now I'm going to test this on the simulator. Of course, the simulator never runs as fast as the actual device, which runs at about 60 frames per second. The simulator runs more at about 30, so things like jumping never work as well. And here we go. So there's my character. He's going to fall down there, and sure enough, he's now able to walk on this particular platform. And one thing I could do just to have a little fun here is just copy and paste a whole bunch of these, and you can see when I copy and paste them, I also get the same name and object type, which is perfectly fine. So if I were to save that out and just build this one more time, you would see, hey, look at that. Now this level creation thing is getting a little bit easier, huh? So here's my jump button, and it's a little hard via the simulator to jump and move around at the same time. Again, worth getting that Apple developer registration done early on in the process, just so you can do fun things like tests on your actual device. And sure enough, if I were to just run off of that thing, I'd end up falling forever because, well, there's nothing to kill me at the bottom of the stage, and there's no other platforms to fall onto. But that's how easy it is to set up a level inside of tiled. And I guess I could throw in here a few more objects just to kind of let you see the same thing over and over again if you want, but yeah. Well, one easy thing to set up next is actually a way to kill the object, or kill the character, I should say, if he does fall off our platforms. And you might have noticed when I was kind of deleting objects on here, I had one called instant death, and I'm just going to step backward a little bit. I'm going to hit the undo key a few times. Here it is, instant death, and so I've reversed deleting that, and of course in doing that I need to rename that back to platform. Alright, so here's an object called instant death, and again, this is collidable with character. The collision body type is a square. Body causes damage by 100, and our characters have a health of 100, so that means that if the body causes damage by 100, taking away all the character's health, and that means the character is dead. And the hit sound just, it's set to drinking, but it kind of sounds like a splat a little bit. So to set this up, really all we have to do is go over here now to tiled, and we don't even need an image for this one, so we can go ahead and just create a rectangle, and we'll put this down right about here, and you can see we now create another object in this layer. We will name it instant death, so the tiled file knows what we're talking about. The property file knows what we're talking about. And again, just set it to objects, and let's go ahead and save it out. This time though, because that is an invisible object, I'm going to go over here to the debug settings and set debug all bodies to yes. And now let's run this one more time. So you're going to see a green outline outside of the any of the playable objects. Let's go ahead and click on that. And sure enough, so you do get an indication now of where the starting point is, and that green outline around all of our platforms. And then there is that instant death area. And so if I were to just walk over on top of that, of course I'm going to die. Look at that. Oh, tragic. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch debug bodies back to off, and we'll fold this back up. All right, let's go ahead and put in at least one more object here, just so you guys start to kind of see how easy it is. So we'll go pick on our for tiled folder one more time again here, and this time let's go and grab the torch out. All right, so this is just torch1.png, which of course implies that there is a torch 2, 3, 4, whatever. It is an animated sequence, but in terms of the tile file, we don't need any more than one frame, because what are we doing? We're just putting in one single image as a for layout purposes only. I do need to remind myself the actual size of this. This is 78 by 47, and let's go ahead and drag this guy into here. And here we go, 78. All right, one thing I have noticed about tile is that about every third time, or I don't know, maybe even every 2 times, you put in an object, it makes you wait here for 1 second, where you can't really even type in the width and height of it. And in a second, there we go. You get some little indication that it's done thinking about it. What did I say the height of this was? My memory is fading. I don't even remember now. That's terrible. Was it 47? I don't know. I don't feel like. Let's see. I was right, so I could have just put in 47. That's great, Justin. All right, so 78, 47. That's a true sign of your age. When you just 2 numbers I could have remembered. All right, so again, I'm just going to select this over here, and this is a good thing to demo. You can either pull down from the side over here, and I know that's getting cut off, but you can choose your images that way, or you can just kind of toggle through over here. So again, as long as you see it selected blue right here, you're in good shape, and then you can put down your image. And if you're going to use many different torches, well, the one thing you want to do first is, of course, give it its actual instance name, and then put in your object. So that way, when you do copy and paste something like this, you copy and paste both the name and the type along with it. And for something like a torch, yeah, that makes sense, because you're probably going to have multiples of them in the scene. So now I've got 4 of them here, and you know what? Just so I can kind of run across these platforms, I'm going to bring them a little bit closer together and not have to worry about jumping. All right, so I'm going to save that back out, and then with the Xcode project, I do need to just put in here an object called torch, and I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go ahead and just grab that out of my common properties. I know I've got one in here called torch, and it doesn't actually have an image name, which is kind of the reason I'm picking on this one. It's an animated file, so all I need to put in here is my animation dictionary, and objects, of course, can have many different animation dictionaries depending on sort of how complex they are. If they're an object or an enemy that fires at the character, you can have a specific dictionary for firing. This one just has a frame order of which is an array type, and you can put in here the actual sequence of the frames, and your frame order you would think is always going to be 1 to whatever the last frame is, but that's not necessarily the case. You can randomize it, so you can go from 1, 2, 3, 4 to back to 2, 3, 1, whatever it is. And so that's why you have an array inside of here to actually define the order of them, and it could be something that goes up and down, whatever it is. And you do want to put in here the size of the frames, and your frames per second. If you're to delete that, the default would be 15, so that's not too far off from 12. And then since this is an animated sequence, instead of relying on an image in the image assets catalog, we are using an atlas file, and that is just a folder with .atlas named at the end of it, and that has been imported inside of the it's getting cut off. Let me bring this up just a little bit. That's been imported in like any other asset, just dragged and dropped in. So there it is, torch.atlas, and then you can see that you've got your standard definition size image, and then the @2x one. So really it's just 4 images, 8 total with the standard and the Retina display versions of them. And when you are putting in the frame order, you don't need to put in any sort of @2x. You just put in the standard definition name, and you don't even have to put the .png part. All right, so if you fold that up, it's really not a lot of properties. Just the depth and the parallax offset, which means that the image in the background can move slower relative to objects in the foreground. All right, so all we're going to do is just copy all that, and we'll paste that into our objects dictionary. If we save this out and then run it again, I think we will see a torch this time. And sure enough, there it is. And without kind of a solid background image back there, it may be a little bit hard to tell that the torch is running at or moving at a slightly different speed than the platforms in the foreground. But actually, I think I can tell that that's happening. And of course, you can adjust the parallax offset just by changing this decimal value right here. And of course, it doesn't necessarily have to be a decimal value. It can be a higher number than that. But I would start in a decimal range, and then just kind of get your feel for how much you want that to be. Offset in the background. And the 0.3 here is affecting the change relative to the character moving around based on the x-axis, and then this one that's left at 0 right now would affect it on the y-axis. So you'll notice that if I were to jump, there's no change relative to the character, or no offset relative to the character on the y-axis. For example, the same distance is between the bottom of the torch and this platform, but that's something that you could adjust for the Y as well. And hopefully you guys have a good feel now for just importing in your assets. And I guess one thing that I should mention before I leave here is that the max size of your image, say the background image or something like that, is going to be, I believe, 4096, so 4096 pixels wide is the cap for images. So if you do have a background that's bigger than that, you're going to want to put in multiple background images back there. And yet again, let me remind you too that if you do ever find that you need to change the map size, you are welcome to do that. Just remember, if you make the map smaller than what you had it before, some of these images can mysteriously disappear. For example, if I just went over here and said height 200, oh look, they're all gone now. So let's go ahead and undo that. But for the most part, you always end up increasing the map size because your levels end up getting bigger over time, not smaller. And increasing the map size is very easy to do, and you'll see that. So I can make this like 4096, and then it's showing me actually down here like how much it's increasing the size of the map. So again, Tiled is it's a very simple, easy program to use for laying out your levels. And just remember that for the most part, all it's doing is just positioning these objects, portals, whatever it is, and then the rest of the properties are left up to the main property list in Xcode. So don't try layering things and things like that here in Tiled. Doesn't matter. It's that depth property in Xcode that actually sets the visual depth. And I'll leave it at that.